Oh, hi there. I'm Kat. Thank you for joining me for Chat with Kat. We're going on a journey and having conversations with people from a variety of backgrounds and experiences. And during this journey, we're going to probably laugh and smile. We'll have moments of compassion and cry. We may be angry or feel confronted, and we may be amazed and just need to ponder. So, whatever the emotion is that comes up, let's take a moment to breathe and ask ourselves why we're feeling this. And also, let's ask, what can I learn from this? So go ahead and like, share, subscribe to this, and make sure that your friends and family and colleagues and anyone you feel could get something from this gets to see this. So let's get on with our journey with Chat with Kat.
Awesome.
Well, hey, Austin. It's so good to see you. I know we know each other from the Self-Perfected group, and I think we've known each other for a few years. And we met each other in person a couple of years back. I know in San Diego, but a lot of people are watching this. They maybe don't know who you are, so just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah, we've known each other for a while now. The Self-Perfected group's been really impactful for my life and my family, and obviously you as well. So, yeah, my name's Austin Hale. Currently living in Oklahoma. Originally from Ohio, though, and I grew up as single child, the only child, I guess, in the family, single mom, and grew up with my mom's side of the family. Kind of, I could talk about this later, but I didn't meet my dad until I was 27 years old. And I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, went to a typical public school, played sports as a kid. Just didn't have a lot of great support as a kid. I mean, I was around my grandparents, I was around my great grandparents, but now looking back, my mom was an alcoholic. She kicked me out when I was 15 years old. I had to go live at my grandparents' house. I just didn't have the sense of self-confidence, self-esteem. I didn't have the things to set me up to actually have the life that I have now, where I have a wife, we have 2 kids, we're in a house, we got a big backyard, I'm supporting a bunch of people within business, and that troubled more upbringing, of which we can get into, that led me into addiction. It led me into smoking weed for over a decade. It led me into just failed relationships, making emotional decisions. And yeah, so who I am now, I'm a person that helps people actually understand themselves, actually understand their mind, truly see and realize and understand the foundation that we have, wherever that may be, whenever people are hearing this or wherever people are at when they start to get to the point where they think, I need a change in my life. Even if you're making a bunch of money, if you're spending money emotionally, it doesn't really mean that you're emotionally stable nor financially stable. I've talked to some people about that as well. People can make money, but if you spend a lot of money based on the instability within emotion, then you don't have the emotional stability. So we can get into it a little bit more, but what I got myself to the point was to be able to actually see, realize, understand who I was, how my upbringing, programming as a child impacted me to not have that emotional stability. And I saw how that impacted the decisions I made in my life. Like I said, the relationships, the job decisions, how I was directing myself, how I was conducting my physical body, and then to now where I have the emotional stability. All right. And so that is the precursor for financial stability, let alone financial abundance. And so, yeah, who I am is a kid who's got a lot of passion about helping other people, but wasn't actually set up to effectively help himself. So in the ways in which I wanted to help other people wasn't an actual real solution. And so now we actually have the real solution. And so now I'm actually able to help other people because I was willing to put my oxygen mask on and help myself first so that I could get to that point. So yeah, that's a little bit of who I am.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. And it's great to hear how people start off with and where they end up, because a lot of time people just see where you are and they don't have that picture and they go, oh, well, it can never happen for me. It can only happen for that person, right? So without knowing all the backstory and going, hey, wait, there's more to this, how I got here. So But I guess now the question is like, how did you get here? Because that's a bit of a journey, right? So how did you get here now with Self-Perfected, and what led you here?
Yeah, a journey to say the least. So how I got here to the Self-Perfected group and just to where I'm at now in life. I'm 32 now. I have, like I mentioned, I have a wife. I have 2 kids. We live in a home. I'm supporting other people. I've done a lot along the way to get here. But I mean, I gave up a multi 6-figure job, and I gave that up when I was early 20s. I gave up being in relationship to my high school sweetheart. I gave up a lot of things that a lot of people wouldn't be willing to give up. But because of those things, I actually have the life that I truly wanted back then. And so, yeah, I mean, where I came from to get here, gosh. So being a kid that was in a family that I didn't feel like I truly, like, my family loved me, but I felt like I didn't really. So this is not going to be like a whole cliche story like this. However, my father is a Black guy and my mother is a white woman, and they met at work, and he had another relationship. He actually had a whole nother family. I have a freaking crazy story. So if my mom's watching this, she's probably not gonna like it, but it's whatever. So I came from a broken family. My mom was very passionate about wanting a kid, and she didn't really have a lot of support either. And take this within the context that it is. Like, if people are listening to this, the system that we live in is responsible for all the things in my life. They're responsible for you not knowing what's going on in your life, having the mental, anxiety issues, whatever you want to call them. Like, it's not just your parents' fault. It's not just their parents' fault, right? They're all part of the system that we live in. So now I understand those things much more than I did back then. However, I did have a ton of trauma in my life as a young kid because of those consequences. And so what I'm saying is, I grew up in the white family. I'm the little Black kid in the white family, and I was loved. My mom took me to daycare. The first day I went to daycare, I did not like it. I cried the entire day. They had to call her and say, "Hey, you got to come pick him up because he's not peeing, he's not eating, he's not doing anything." And I was 6 months old as a little baby, and my mom was at work, and I went to my great grandparents' house. And they were willing to watch me. And I went to their house, caught the bus, went to school, went back. And it was my great grandpa was the medic in the military for the captain. And then also my grandma was a nurse. So it was 2 people who loved taking care of other individuals. And they were the ones who was taking care of me. And so for me, I was this kid who was willing to say the things that people didn't want to hear. And I've always kind of been that person that I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something. But telling isn't always like selling the person on what's best. Right? So that got me in a lot of trouble when I was younger. And as I was getting into my teenage years, that got me into a position to where I ultimately got kicked out of living with my mom and had to go live with my grandparents. And as a kid, I was interested in things that ultimately I wanted in my life. Like, I was interested in health and wellness, playing sports, but it was because I had people in my family that weren't just unhealthy, they were obese. And so I didn't get to play a lot with the family members. I had to go play with the other kids in the neighborhood. And that's fine. Like, we have kids in the neighborhood, but I wanted to play with my family, but I couldn't always do that. And so, if my family's watching this, they might not like it. It is what it is. So I did ultra marathons when I was a little kid. When I was 8th grade, 9th grade, I rode a bike for over 100 miles, right? I was always into running. I was into nutrition. I was into working out. I was into physical fitness. And it was actually because I didn't have those things growing up. So my starting point wasn't, hey, I want to just be a healthy person. It was, I want to have this because I never had it as a child. And then that led me into, jump ahead and I'll come back. Right before we got into Self-Perfected, which is literally how I got involved, I was a part of a whole day trading community. A couple friends, we had hundreds of people in a community where we were teaching people how to day trade NFTs, get involved with crypto. And I was the mindset guy. And somebody that was on my mindset calls said, hey, you're talking about things that other people aren't really talking about on a deeper level with more certainty than people are talking about. But this group over here, Self-Perfected, they're talking about that. And so to kind of backstep a bit. So I grew up in this home. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. I went to a regular school. I went to a Christian school for a couple years. And then I was on varsity as a 9th grade freshman, playing with all the juniors and seniors because our school was so small. And ultimately, because of that, there wasn't enough competition. And so I went back to the public school to play soccer there. But that's where I got involved with just essentially the wrong crowd. You know, I wasn't really supported to know how to effectively communicate and effectively express myself. And so I would just shoot it straight. I'd tell my mom what I didn't like. I'd tell her what I did like, but then I'd tell her how much I didn't like other things. And she didn't get the best support either, also being a young mom. And she was stressed with her money and finances and things, and just ultimately didn't support me in the best way and kicked me out to live with my grandparents. And I was just 15 years old. So because of that, because of my dad not being around, and it wasn't, I mean, my mom kind of kept me from him. You know, she wanted there to be a good relationship. This is so crazy. She wanted there to be a good relationship. She wanted there to be my dad in my life or my dad out of my life, but not coming back and forth. And people have their opinions on that being what it is, but ultimately the child wasn't really the one that was being considered. It was actually what mom thought was best for herself because she wanted a relationship. And so I find out when I'm 27 years old, oh, the reason why my mom couldn't have a relationship with my dad, it wasn't that he didn't want to be around. It wasn't that he lived somewhere far away. He lived the next city over. And I never knew that. I had brothers and sisters and all that stuff because guess what? My mom worked at this place and my dad worked at this place and they started dating. And then she, you know, she gets pregnant. Come to find out, the reason why she can't have a relationship with him was because, and I found this out when I was 27, he was married with 3 kids in the home.
Wow.
And so it was like, oh, minor, major detail here, right?
Right.
So just the communication, the lack of ability to express ourselves, the suppression, all of these things are so big within our culture today. You know, not wanting to actually effectively support our kids, ultimately because we weren't taught how to effectively support ourselves. And so, you know, I'm talking about these things about my mom and my family and these different aspects, but, you know, the system that we live in is constantly putting pressure on people. It's making people feel like they're not good enough, let alone the school system that impacts that as well. And so I got exposed to marijuana and smoking weed when I was in school from the people that I was in school with. And so for me, that was a huge coping mechanism. For me, that was a way to not feel all that anxiety, not feel all that pressure, and to feel like, oh, there's other people that are doing things that I like as well. And it was just a total escape. But so I'm this kid who's into health and wellness, playing soccer on a high level. And then I start going to a community college. I start going to, it's called Cincinnati State. And I'm studying business management. Now, my grandma, so I talked about my mom, talked about my great grandparents helping me out, and a little bit about my dad. My grandma and my grandpa. So my grandmother, she passed away from cancer. And when that happened, I was at least 18 when that happened. That was what, 2014? So yeah, I was 20 when that happened. And she was a person that took a lot of responsibility, but she was a person that also didn't express a lot of things. So cancer, deep-rooted anger and resentment. Okay, we know those things. However, she went to college, had 2 daughters, while she was a single mom as well. While she was working jobs in college, she married the guy who is my grandfather now. He's still alive. He lives in Cincinnati. He lives in the same house that I had to move in with them in. And man, she was a go-getter. And she was like the second mom. She was the one that would come pick me up when I had arguments with my mom. She was the one that would come pick me up and take me to church on Sundays, right? I grew up in a mainly household. And so she was the branch manager of a bank, did a really good job of that. And then she worked her way to be able to get a position with a company called Cintas. So a lot of people are aware of the company Cintas. They're around the world. So they provide uniforms. They provide the floor mats when you go into a business. They provide the fire extinguishers. They do $10 billion in sales every single year. And so where I grew up in Ohio, about 20 minutes away in a city called Westchester, is the global headquarters for the Cintas Corporation. So my grandmother, she was the lead project manager at the Cintas Corporation. Like I'm talking, when she died, there was a 3-hour wait at her visitation just to go and see her and pay respect. Like the big wigs, you know, that don't go to normal employees' funerals all came through in their suits after work. People that she taught English as a second language to came by. She did a lot of things for the community. And this was the woman that I spent the majority of my time around. And so for me, I was always into helping other people, mainly because I was with her. And I saw that there was a lot of people that needed to be helped. But also, I was very meticulous to detail. And so this was something that I noticed now I use to my benefit. However, back then, I would stay in my head. I would overthink things because I didn't know how to effectively direct it. I had the qualities, but I just didn't know how to direct it because I just wasn't supported properly. And so when I started going to this community college, Cincinnati State, I was studying business management and business administration. And here in the States, mainly down in Texas, there's a couple other locations outside of Texas, but there's a restaurant called Papado. And Papado is a family-owned restaurant. And it's on average at least like $50 per person to go and eat there. So it's a scratch kitchen. They make all their own food. They have a bakery that makes all the desserts, and then they ship them to all the locations a couple times a week. They do things in a very good way, and they're super successful, and they do no marketing at all. Every single thing is word of mouth. And so there was a location near where I lived at, and I was just going to different restaurants, different places. And I didn't even know about that restaurant, but I went to a place next door to apply to be a server since I was in college. And I just like, what is this restaurant? Like, I've never even heard of it. I've never been there. Like now knowing they don't do advertisements, that's why. And I go in there and I'm 18 years old. And the general manager says, look, man, you're a pretty sharp guy, but I just don't have the hours for you as a to-go server. If you want, come back in like 6 months when you turn 19. I'll make you a server. I'll put you on the schedule. We'll see what you can do. I'm like, all right. So I went back the day before I turned 19. He's like, you're not 19 yet. I'm like, I know. But once I fill out the paperwork and I come back to start tomorrow, I'll be 19. And he was like, okay, I like the way you think. All right. This is fine. So I started serving at this restaurant. Shout out to Monty. His name was Robert Montgomery. And he's still, I believe, the GM at that restaurant. And he got me set up to be a server, and over the next 6 months, I spilled some drinks on people. You know, I put in the wrong food a couple times into the POS system to the back, but I didn't make a lot of the same mistakes twice. And I really took ownership of the role that I played at that restaurant. And so because I was going to school for business administration and I needed a co-op job as well, I mentioned it to him, but he said, yeah, I mean, I was considering to have you manage the front of the house and to put you into training. So since you need to do that, yeah, that's fine. It worked out. And so at this point, this was kind of when I had one of my first wake-up calls. I was working at this restaurant. I was dating this girl in high school that we'd been together for a few years. and I was smoking weed like a chimney, Catherine. And I was like like my mom, you could consider like she would mainly drink on the weekends. She stopped doing that when I was like 5-ish years old. But I was totally, you could say, like a functioning high person.
Right.
And as long as you didn't smell it on me, like you really probably wouldn't know. Maybe looking back on it now, just because I had more of an ego with the way I would speak and stuff. But he said, okay, cool. We're going to give you a drug test because you got to get a drug test to go into management. And this was my first wake up call. And I'm like, okay, cool. He's like, when's the last time you smoked? I said 2 weeks ago. He's like, all right. So we're going to wait because I'm going to put you into like a training, but you're going to have to take a hair test, man. So you're going to have to stop for like months. And then it was like a 6-month thing. And then we're going to be able to go on from there. But I'm not going to put you through it because if I do and you fail, I have to fire you. And I don't want to fire you. And so I'm like, okay. 2 weeks goes by. He's like, all right, cool. We're going to start the countdown. When's the last time you smoked? I said 2 weeks ago. And he goes, why don't you ever stop doing this? And so that was the first time where I actually had to stop smoking. And over the entire period of me smoking until I actually stopped, after being involved with the self-perfected group, after using the tools that we use with TechnoTutor, that was the only time I'd ever stopped in my life, like for more than like a day. And over that 6 months, I stopped all this and that, and then I go through and I get into management. Okay. So as soon as I get back into management, start smoking again. I'm 19 years old and I'm running this restaurant that does $10 million plus every year in sales. Like we would do 50,000, 100,000 on one day over the weekend. We'd have 1,000 or more people coming through that restaurant on a Saturday. Wow. And so I was 19. And I'm saying what I said before and this right now because people have this pre-program based on who you were around and based on your upbringing. You can do certain things. You can speak a certain way. I can articulate a message. People could hear me on the phone and they're like, yeah, this sounds like a pretty professional person. I can dress up nice. I can elaborate on a point. But in my head, I was so broken. I was so stressed out. My self-esteem, my self-confidence, my self-worth, not being good enough, like all the self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence, trash. My self-worth, trash. And me feeling like I was good enough did not exist. And so I would continue to work out, continue to want to make more money, continue to do well within this restaurant. Like I was 19 running the whole restaurant, like managing people that were twice my age. It was funny because I would have to go and cut somebody off from drinking alcohol. And I was 20 years old. Like I wasn't even legally allowed to drink alcohol. Tell somebody that they couldn't drink alcohol. And I had that stuff happen a few times where like some guy would look at me and he's like, man, how old are you? You know, like he'd be all drunk and, you know, they'd be cutting me out, doing all these things. And I had to face all that. And so I'm working at this restaurant. This is kind of a transition part of my life. I'm working at this restaurant. I'm doing well. I'm 19, 20, 21, 22. Now I'm managing not just the front of the house, but I'm managing the back of the house. I'm basically like kind of like a second in line to be the GM. And at Papado, the GMs make over 200,000. I mean, you get a bit of commission from the store as well. You get all the seafood, steak. I mean, not just, you can make whatever, but we could eat food there every day. You could take food home to your family, like very well taken care of. I mean, when I was in management training, they flew me down to Houston over 9 times from Cincinnati just to do management training. And they paid for my a part of my college at Cincinnati State. And so at this point, I'm like 22 years old, still up in my head, but I've now rose up in the ranks. And my buddy had rose up in the ranks as well at the Taco Bell restaurant. And so him and I are 2 young guys crushing it in the restaurant management scene, working jobs that essentially like people that we were going to high school with are studying in college to have that level of job or income when they would get out.
And we just saw the glass ceiling. You know, we saw about people being entrepreneurs online. We saw about people having their own business. And we were told at the restaurants, treat it like it's your own. You know, if this was your house, how would you want it to be? How would you want it to be cleaned? How would you want people to treat your items and your furniture? And so we had this idea. We knew somebody that had a moving company, and we knew somebody. They were local. It was my buddy's older brother. It was one of his friends, and they have a moving business that was in the state of Ohio. But they had a contract with this furniture company that was nationwide. And so my buddy as well, his girlfriend, she had family in Los Angeles. And so they knew of a place because he was into real estate. He was a construction developer. Her uncle was. And so they knew of a place where they could get an apartment, and he could basically get them an apartment, and I could get one nearby. And so my buddy got a moving truck. We signed up as basically like the little brother company of this moving company, which is called Mini Movers. So it's Mini Movers over here in Ohio, and then we were Mini Movers LA, and he's still doing that, by the way. And him and I would just talk about it. We would talk about it. We would talk about it. We would go to a local health facility that was kind of near where him and I both lived. We'd sit in the sauna and talk about it, how we were going to do it, all these things. And essentially, it was the classic example of everybody told me not to do it. The girlfriend that I had was now my fiance. I saw that she was essentially just becoming exactly like her mom. And I just didn't want that. It was controlling. It was like, hey, we should have separate bank accounts. Hey, we should just do things separate. Don't trust the other partner. It was a lot of ugly things within it. However, we had young love. And so we would always try to make it work, but it was always, there was something underlying how I just didn't like how things were going. And I knew that, man, I was signing up the rest of my life for this. And also within that job, man, I'm signing up the rest of my life for this. Like, how could I commit to something like that? Now I've cleared up this point of commitment. I mean, I'm married to my wife. I'm, saying I'm going to be married to the business and these things, right? But looking at that, I had trouble standing. I had trouble being committed because my mom was never married. And even the marriage that she got into when I was like 14 or something, I guess, I mean, because of that marriage, she disconnected with a lot of people in our family. My grandmother, she wasn't married either, and so there was a lot of people that I saw that had commitment issues that were directly imprinting and impacted upon my programming. And so for me, I was like, man, do I want to leave? Do I want to stay? I'm giving up this job because I'm 22 at the time. And like, if I would have waited like 2 more years, I would have been shipped down to either Atlanta or Texas and had my own restaurant. I would be GM. I would have been doing that. It's almost the 10-year anniversary of me leaving. In 2016 was when I left on Mother's Day, the busiest day of the year. My last day. I'm like, that's my last one. I'm going out on a bang. And I left, and my buddy left. And I remember I was at a New Year's Eve party my old fiance and I would go to. And it would be where it was at the Hyatt, it was at a Hyatt, I believe. And it was just, the Embassy Suites. So a nice place. It was open bar, all you could eat buffet, nice food. We'd bring some friends with us, but we could go drink all we wanted. And you had a room upstairs. That was why a lot of people went there. You don't have to go anywhere. And man, I remember the next day I woke up and I told her that I was going to move. And this was the plan. And she told me not to. And she told me, that's crazy. You're never going to do that. And at that point, it was interesting because her and I had a long distance relationship for part of our relationship. And she had told me, I'm going to college in Chicago. We're both from Cincinnati. She got accepted to Columbia University, which is a pretty nice university up in Chicago. And she just called me one day and said, hey, I'm going to this college. I'm like, what? What about our relationship? And she's like, well, if you love me, you'll make it work. And man, if that did not ring in the back of my head, and this is before we were walking the process or anything, right? And so that morning, I'm laying there in the bed, New Year's Day, and I'm like, hey, I got a plan. This is what I want to do. This is how it can work. This is what we're talking about. And she's like, you're crazy. I'm not doing that. You're not going out there. And I remember thinking, damn, that was the straw that broke the back. Because it was like, you told me if I loved you, I'd make it work. And right now I'm telling you I'm doing this, just like you told me you're doing that. And you're telling me that I'm crazy and you're not about it and all these things. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. And a couple months go by, and my buddy and I, we decided on the date that we were going to leave. And we were going to leave in June. And over the next few months, everybody told me not to. Monty, the guy that was the GM at the seafood restaurant, he told me not to. He told me why I should stay. He told me why I should finish my bachelor's degree. My parents told me why I should stay. My grandparents told me why I should stay. You know, my great grandparents died during that time. You know, it's like I had all these things that were going on, and people were just like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And man, for anybody that like is in a position like that, that's listening to this right now, it's not that you should just blatantly disagree with what anybody else says for you, but at the same time, like, you can discern for your own situation based on the input that you've given and the conversations you've had and all that stuff. But the main point is you have everything to lose that you don't already have yet. Like, a lot of people think, oh, I'm young, I'm single, I got money, I have time on my side, whatever your situation is. But at the end of the day, like, you have everything to lose that you don't already have yet, despite whatever situation, despite whatever your age, whatever your income, any of that stuff. And so I made that move and moved to West Covina, California, just outside of LA. Took my motorcycle. My buddy took his motorcycle. It took the car, drove out there. I had one of my buddies that I had, you know, developed a good friendship with from the restaurant. He rode out there with me. We stopped at my aunt's place in Colorado. And then we had another buddy fly in. We kind of partied for the weekend. And then we drove the rest of the way down to California. And man, that changed everything in my life. Like, being in California, I had been to California when I was like 7 or 8 with my mom one time to visit her friend, but it wasn't LA. And man, I saw so much. I mean, I had a classic studio apartment. I'm a bachelor. I had a freaking blanket on the ground in the beginning and just put my head on the ground and slept there on my back. But man, I was exposed to a lot. And a big part here within my story that kind of catches us up to like here where I am now, I did Uber and Lyft. And this was actually probably one of the most impactful things in my life now looking back on it, because this is something that transitioned me to see and kind of find out more about day trading. We found out about that online. A lot of people were posting about it, stuff like that. But I was doing Uber and Lyft. And one day I get a pickup, pick the guy up. I'm like, hey man, where are we going? You know, I tried to learn the city. So that's why I was doing Uber and Lyft. I'll meet new people. You know, we're seeing who we can meet. And because my buddy and I, we'd ride our motorcycles down to the beach, and I'd go to Muscle Beach in Venice, and I'd work out, and we'd do all this stuff and just try to live it up. I mean, I climbed up to the Hollywood sign and just all these different things. And man, I picked this guy up, and I'll never forget. I said, hey man, where are we going? Because I mean, I just have an address, right? And I'm just trying to spark a conversation. And he said, we're going to the DMV. Oh, why are we going to the DMV? He's like, well, I got my license suspended because I got 2 speeding tickets last week in my Lamborghini. And that phrase changed the rest of my life, because I said, oh, really? How do you have a Lamborghini? And so he said, well, my brother and I, we have a rental car company over in Beverly Hills. I'm like, really? That's pretty cool. And so I just started talking to him a bit more, having a good conversation, telling him about me, moving out to LA, you know, starting a business with my buddy, doing moving, and I'm doing this, I'm hustling, I'm trying to make it, man. Like, I'm learning more about mindset. I see that like our mind is what makes us have the success, but I'm trying to learn more about it, all this stuff. And he says, you know what? You're you're a pretty cool young guy. I like how you handle yourself, and I like your level of conversation, how you speak. So if you want, I'll give you an opportunity. Go by and talk to Stella over at the rental car company, and I'll give you the address, and I'll tell her you're going to come by." And I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Thanks." And so he gets out of the car, goes in, and man, I drove, it seemed like as fast as I could back to my house, put on better clothes, and I went over to that rental car company, and I met this lady named Stella. And come to find out, these guys not only have a luxury rental car company where you could literally like Ferrari, Rolls Royce, Range Rover, anything and everything. They would not just rent cars out, but they would chauffeur royalty as a transport service when people would come into town. And so those jobs are what they ended up putting me on. Because of my professionalism, I could look nice when I dress up. I'm able to speak professionally to somebody. And I definitely contribute that to my grandma. You know, that's part of what I mentioned before, like the ability to speak, the ability to articulate yourself, how you handle. And for me, being able to like manage something has always been able to work in my favor. And like in the job setting, like in a system setting. And so I had to really use the tools that we use to be able to cultivate that for myself, because building a business for yourself outside of the system is totally different. And that's why so many people fail building a business for themselves, because it is different than just working a 9-to-5 or even managing at a high level in the system. And so, man, these guys set me up with the Sheikh of Kuwait. So government leader of Kuwait, royal family of the Saudi royal family, members of the Saudi royal government, people from European royalty, and just individuals that were ultra rich, not just rich. And so what we would do is we would transport them to Las Vegas. We would transport them around Beverly Hills, Bel Air. We would, like, literally the Sheikh was in the passenger seat. I'm driving. Well, sorry, we have bodyguard in the passenger seat. I'm driving. We have the Sheikh in the back, the realtor in the back, and she's literally having me drive through Bel Air, showing him $500 million properties that aren't on Zillow, that aren't on your typical, you know, real estate website. And so, like, we go to the Bel Air Hotel, you know, and I'm this kid from Ohio that hears about Bel Air because the Fresh Prince of Bel Air, and here I am in the freaking nicest parts of Bel Air, right, with royalty, and in the Beverly Hills Hotel, Mr. C, you know, Pelican Hill, all these places that only those that are at that level get to be exposed to. Like, public people can't just go in there. And so that showed me this level of wealth and how these people handle themselves. And then even from just me driving the nanny around, when those people are at their meetings, I had to sometimes even just drive the nanny and the kids to different places, and then having one-on-one conversation with the nanny, seeing like actually how life is behind the doors. That gave me a much bigger perspective of how these people actually live their life, and like what it really takes, and what those people are exposed to, and what they do, and how they move, and all of that. And so at that same time, I get involved with day trading. I get involved with, okay, how do I make money from my phone and have something that has unlimited potential? And so we were in a group, kind of long story short with this day trading thing. Like, there was a group that used to promote the business of like recruiting people. It was total MLM. So now we're not a part of MLMs, but at that time it was MLM. And so we were involved with, that got me exposed to day trading. But there were so many of us that wanted to learn the skill, but they weren't actually showing us the skill. It was just, hey, get your friends to come to this meeting, to sign up for this course, like to pay every month. But then like, we're like, when do we learn how to actually trade? And so there was a couple of us that got together after a couple years actually within that space. Just kind of spinning my tires. Like, we were making some money, losing money, making money, losing money, making money, losing money. And there were some of us that got together and created a group where 2 of them taught people how to day trade, 2 of them taught about crypto, And then I would follow up all the live sessions with mindset. And so I was the mindset guy, because behind the scenes this whole time, I'm just getting exposed to, like, when I first moved out in 2016, over those like 4 or 5 years, I was just taking in all the Jim Rohn, all the Tony Robbins, all the Les Brown, all the Eric Thomas, like all the mindset stuff that I could get my hands on. I would learn about it. But then, and this is kind of like the main point that allowed me to see the value of what we're doing now. Within the mindset stuff, within this trading group, I had my own struggles with day trading. People that were in the group had their own struggles with day trading. People would pay me to tell them about their mindset, and I would tell them what I see, but then they wouldn't change it. And so I'm putting all these dots together as in, okay, how come my family members say they would want to change and they would never actually change? How come my family members say they would want to lose weight? They would never lose weight. How come I said I'm going to stop smoking weed every day for 10 years and I never do? How come my grandpa said he would always clean out the garage so grandma could put her car in the garage every single winter from the time I could remember until she died, but he never did it. To this day, it's still dirty. So why do people not actually change? And so the 5 of us, we had this group, hundreds of people paying us every month to be a part of this community where we're actually teaching people how to trade, live trading with people every single day, every single night. And then I would do in the morning, it's funny knowing what we know now, my calls would be called the energy accelerator. Right. And so I would literally, people would get on after the day trading session. It'd be like 8 a.m. Pacific time, and we'd be done trading. Cool. Get on my call and we will help you run through a wall and just go and tackle the day. And so I would hype people up, have a topic every single day. We'd talk about it, get people motivated. And there was this guy, and his name was Thomas, and he got on my calls. He was always on my calls, and I would always have people on him, but I always noticed his name was always on the calls. And he told me, hey man, you have a lot of value here, and what you're talking about, a lot of people aren't talking about. And I think that you would really find value from this group called Self-Perfected. And they have these hangouts. They're on Friday nights, every Friday, same time, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Just get on them, man, and hear what they're talking about. And so my wife, Giselle, she was into the mindset too. She would do meditation events where we lived at locally. And then so when her and I met, I would help her with them, and I'd be playing the rain sticks and she'd be leading the meditation. We'd be having people in there crying, but they would keep coming back. Kind of like I mentioned with the weight loss and the smoking and cleaning the garage. Like, why would people not be able to actually make real change? And so we got on these self-perfected calls, and right away we were like, man, these people are just talking about things with certainty, with clarity. They're talking about things with a sense of purpose. They are taking responsibility, like, for not just themselves, but they're talking about their community and like local clubhouses and how we can have these like bigger events with more people, because people see the world is crazy, but nobody's taking responsibility for it, let alone in their own lives. And then, you know, I had read so many books about polarity and the Hermetic principles and, you know, your wish and your command and all these things. And so I'm like, okay, I understand the mind plays a big role, but like, how can we actually make people have real change? And so, like we do every Friday, we have a public call, and then what's after? Okay, for everybody who has TT, we're gonna get on the TT support call. And so I'm like, hey man, like, what's this TT support call? Because we were on the calls for a couple of weeks, and I'm like, Thomas, like, what is the TT support call? He's like, okay, well, like, let me tell you about TechnoTutor. And so right away, so we started getting on in October of 21. And in August of 2021, Luna was born. So she was only a couple months old. And then Thomas was talking to us about TechnoTutor, and he was talking to us about essentially how we could not just re-educate ourselves and actually break through all of those limiting parts of our mind as an adult, but then also how we could effectively educate our child. And so for us, that's when we hopped on board. And that's when we just kind of hopped on board, hit the ground running, and started using the tools, and we saw real change. But as far as how I got into TechnoTutor, or excuse me, how we got involved with Self Perfected up in 2021, we saw that the world was crazy. And we saw very clearly that the mindset was something that directly dictated our direct higher lives on an individual level, and we saw it on a global world level. And so for us, we really liked the Self Perfected group because it was people that we could rock with for life. And then we went to the San Diego event. Now we've had, man, we went to the Ritz-Carlton the year after in 2024, like luxury resort. And then we didn't do it last year, but then this year we just got back from the cruise. So we had a whole freaking cruise this year because the group is growing and growing and growing. So, I mean, from where I was at to where I'm at now, man, it was a very long, it was a journey, because now we're walking a process. So there's a big difference between a journey and a process. You know, a journey allows for you to have the, oh, I'm going to sit and wait over here, or, oh, I don't really know about that, or I doubt this, or I question that. And it's like, what we're doing now, we actually have certainty. Search is over. Like, we have the clarity. And so now we're walking a process. And so since then, like in 2021 until, well, actually it would have been 2022 when we got involved, really early 2022, until now, less than 4 years. Well, yeah, I guess a little bit now, it's April, a little bit over 4 years later, man, leaps and bounds. I mean, I was able to effectively stop smoking weed, understand why I did it, and actually solidify those, like, you know, we have, like, if this is like our foundation, we have like these missing or like cracked bricks and stuff in our foundation. Like, I was actually able to find those. And I did so many meditations to subconsciously meditate on where my problems are. And then I open my eyes and I'm like, crap, I'm back. You know, like, I want to go back to feeling good. And so now, you know, there's nothing wrong with necessarily feeling good. But I mean, what if you were able to actually get yourself to a point where you genuinely did feel good? And now I've created a life that I don't need to take a vacation from. You know, I'm married to my wife. We have 2 super effective kids. And now I'm a totally different individual than when we got involved, or 10 years ago, even when I was running the restaurant. And so now it's because I actually have a stable foundation within myself to better process information, to better be actually aware, to then be able to truly see and realize and understand who I am, what I was designed as, but now I can effectively change that. So it's not just I have to journey around to stumble upon something that makes me feel better about myself and then do more and more of that because the feelings always change. It's like, no, I've stabilized myself within all these points. So even if I, let's say, feel negative, I can self-honestly identify why, and then I can move through that. I'm not using the emotion as a dictator of what I'm going to do or not. Now we're living as to, okay, what's best for everybody? And if I'm doing what's best for everybody, that doesn't mean I have to sacrifice myself like I'm Batman or something. It's like, no, I'm included in what's best for all. And so now we're actually clear on how we can help others, you know, effectively educate themselves, build a cool community, everybody have what they want, you know, have your goals, have your dreams, your cool relationship, make more money, all that stuff. But do it in a way to where you're not in consequence and you're not creating more consequence based on just your self-interest. And so, yeah, that's how I got involved. And that's a little bit more about me.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And, you know, I'm just like sitting here going, oh, man, because I never knew your whole story, right? Like, we've had conversations here and there, but we've never really just sat down and like got your whole, you know, the whole story here. So I'm just going, oh, this is great. And there's so many, like, in parts, there's so many similarities I could hear from myself in what you were sharing, right? And I'm going, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, that's it. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I can align with that one too, right?
Sure.
And I think that's the important point, is that there's so much with all of us. There's so many things that are similar with other people's experiences and lives, you know, that it's not just unique to you. Like, this is the only, and you know, your wife and your children, like, this is something that a lot of people can understand and go, oh yeah, I was this person or am this person or I know this person in my life, right?
Yeah.
And it could be just one point of what you shared, right? So it's not just, oh, the whole thing, yeah, that's me. It's like, oh, that point right there, yeah, that's me, or that's my friend, or that's someone, you know. So
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people nowadays, like, excuse me, a lot of people nowadays really have a lot of pressure. I mean, it sounds like obvious, but the system is just continuing to put pressure on people. And I mean, there's been I mean, I've had number of instances where, man, it's just so much. You know, it's like people you just sit there and you cry. You know, you're just like, why is this happening? How do I change things? And it's so stressful when you don't truly have a way to understand who you are and to understand how you were designed. Because within a lot of the material that's involved within the mainstream, it's not designed for you to have clarity. And so I think that's a really important point, because within what we're doing, you know, I say the search is over because the search is over. And for a long time, I'm like searching. And then you find it and it's almost like, oh, okay, so now I can just focus on this. And now I can just keep learning about this. And I can actually have more clarity on so many of the different, on all different levels, right? Because we have, you know, there's audios, every question answered for everyone. There's different resources and stuff, right? But it's like, ultimately, people want to have a good relationship. People want to make more money. You know, people want to have a cool community, and they like getting together and having a hamburger, or getting together by the beach and having some tacos or whatever, right? And we like to be with more people, but we've been so destructed within our self-worth and our self-authority to where we don't think that we can have change on a global scale. Like, there's so many crazy things happening in the world right now. And when I'm talking to people, one of the most important, important, yes, but one of the most impactful questions and words that somebody asked me was, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? And for people watching this, you could do this too. I'll pause for a little bit. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say the word authority? And so for you, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Parents,
right? Yeah. For me, it was like parent or a cop, or like you could say a teacher or a boss or the government or something, right? But, and that's true. That's 100% true. Also, right, another definition is freedom from doubt. So belief in yourself and your abilities. So a self-authority. Whereas those two things represent two very different things. One of them, what you and I were saying, represents inequality. But then the other definition, freedom from doubt, so belief in yourself and your abilities, that's equality. You know that you can go and do what you need to do, and you're at least, you believe in your ability, right? So if you don't have the ability to do something, you're free from doubt. So you can gain the ability if you're free from doubt, right? So the things that, like, our knee-jerk reaction is parents, boss, cop, politics, whatever. That is what we see, like, through our little scope, authority as. And so I'm like, oh yeah, the meaning that I have to words, not just the words that I know, but the meaning, those have an equal, if not more, impact, because that's how I'm seeing the word. That's how I'm reacting to the word. That's how I'm using the word. That's what I'm listening to. And so, yeah, that was just, I wanted to throw that in there because that is super important. Like, our belief and our ability to have an impact on the world that we live. So many people don't even think that they can, because we went through the school system. We are a part of the media and the culture, and we're, consuming social media and stuff, to where it's all playing a role in making us feel unequal so that we can't actually change things.
And it's also direct in our environments too, like from our family and friends and those people closest to us as we were growing up, right? Those had a huge influence on whether we believe we can do something or not, or whether we can change the situation or not.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah. And that was actually very interesting, because I just had a conversation with someone where, they were saying something, and I said, yeah, but we're all equal. And they said, well, do you really think we're all equal? I said, yeah, of course we are. I said, the only thing stopping you from being equal is what you actually think. But if you're thinking you're not equal with somebody, you are. But I said, we're all people. We're all humans. Like, but it's interesting because that took me a long time to come to that point, though. Like when you said, like, I am part of the all, like equal, I actually probably only hit that point, in the last year or so. For me, myself.
Yeah.
There was still this whole, like,
I'm
not as good as this person. I'm not on the same level as this person for numerous reasons, right? The education or the status or the success in careers or whatever, or personal life success or whatever that was that I was taking. I'm not equal to that person. I'm not as good as that person. And it really hit me hard. Yeah. In the last little while, it's like, wait, if I'm looking at this as like what is best for all and we're all equal, I actually am part of the all. I'm like, oh, gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, something that I got support with. So a group helps you grow up. GROUP, right? Grow up. And the group helps you grow up. So I was, I'll say, challenged with the point of why I wasn't married to Giselle, or why I didn't think I needed to be married to Giselle. And one of my friends challenged me on this point. Shout out to Cameron. And we were learning about parenting. We were learning about how to be effective parents. And we're learning about, I'm asking questions. I'm still, I'm fresh into this process. So I'm like, I know stuff. Let me try to share my opinion. I know this. I know that. I don't need to be married. I don't need the government to be involved. I don't need none of that. But then it's like, well, it's not just about you. And I'm like, okay, but I still don't need the government to be involved. And it's like, yeah, but you don't need the government to be involved. And maybe your wife doesn't either, but so many women, and I'm going to give a woman example and a male example. So many women are impulsed by Disney movies, by the princess, all right, having your Prince Charming and needing somebody to be there, or there's a back door. And even if you're there and we were living together, there's that back door in your mind about, well, why aren't we just married then? Why can't we make it like happy ever after? And so a lot of people, like, we couldn't even see that for ourselves in the moment because we were starting to use the tools. So we couldn't even like really process that. It just kind of went over our head. But I'm like, well, okay, I could see that. Like, okay, but like, explain it more. Let's talk about it more. And so then, I had other conversation. Well, why do I not think that I can do what's best for everybody? Well, because I have to sacrifice myself if I'm doing what's best for everybody. And it's like, well, why do you think that? Well, because well, dang. And so I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about, well, Spider-Man, or well, Batman. Batman had to take the bomb all the way over the ocean to, drop it to save the city, or like Superman, or these movies that we've been impulsed with from childhood that made us think the way we think about our lives and what we need and what we don't need and what we value and what we don't value. And so that was something that was like really impactful for me, because I never thought that I could be a part of the all. I literally thought, if I'm doing something that's best for everybody, it means I'm dying, or like I'm sacrificing myself. I'm going to be the one assassinated. That's what I would think if I'm trying to do something that's best for everybody else. And that's just simply not the case. But then also from, like, let's say a marriage and relationship standpoint, it's like, why wouldn't I be married? Why would I want to have just, like I could do a trust and we can do these things and not have to have the government involved and all this stuff. And it's like, dude, I mean, like, what's the difference? Why are we scared of that? And then looking at how unequal I felt to the government. And it's like, dude, if anything's ever at the point where like I need that type of marriage versus a regular marriage with the license that we have now from the state of California when we lived there, like, what are we even
talking about right now? Like but that was where I was at, because super involved with day trading, super involved with, okay, my self-interest, let me make tons of money and then go live somewhere else so that I'm not impacted by this crazy world out here. And so that was, I mean, I have like a whole tribal ID, like I could get it out and show you, but like I could be like non-US citizen. I could just travel as like a foreign national if I wanted to. But it's this point of like, you can't just continue to separate yourself from everything else out there. But if you think, and this is kind of the main point I'm making here, if you think that you need to do that, doesn't that show you that this world system that we live in needs changing? And so I'm like, all right, yeah, I can accept that, you know? And so then we started looking at the point of like, okay, how can we actually make this happen for other people? And then how could we, this is the value of the self-perfected group too. It's like, how could we actually give that message to somebody to where they would want to be involved in what we're doing as well? Because there's so many people that feel the same way that you or I feel within a lot of these different topics in our lives, but they just don't have a freaking solution. And so what we have is a solution. So it starts with the group, and it starts with, you know, these like conversations that we have to kind of expose people to these points, but in time, like, different when we're in person, you know, like in San Diego, it's like we could be up till 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. And nobody's high, drunk, you know, the kids can be around anybody, like it's a safe environment. And it's actually people that have, like, we laugh so much and we have a great time. And so, I mean, the group's amazing. The group's amazing.
It is. And you know what I love is that everyone here actually cares about the other person. And so when they actually challenge you on something, it's not coming from a point of being mean or I'm better than you. Not, you know, it's always coming from the point of like getting you to really go back and look at things and thinking of a different way. And, you know, is there a different viewpoint on this or a different outcome? Like, it's not about you're just being a bad person, or this is a really, you know, it's like, maybe it is calling you out on being a certain way, going, but is that really the best? Or is that really making you happy in this as well as everybody else? Or like giving you that level of being okay, right? Because I mean, one of my things, I thought I was this really cool, confident person. And I just actually discovered a while ago that my base level was anxiety, but I just covered it really well. Right. So from the outside in, you would not know that I was always on edge and everything was like, you know, and like my breath was held here. Right. There was no like breathing into the stomach and breathing deep. And like, if you said to breathe, I'd be like, because it would be up here. I actually didn't even realize until a little while ago that my base level was anxiety hidden very well. So you just don't know where people are. Right. But when you actually can get to a point where you go, oh, wait, this is actually what it feels like in my body to be calm and stable. And you're like, and I don't feel like my heart is racing, or I don't feel like my breath is being caught somewhere. And I feel like I can actually just be a person, you know, without having judgments and without having it's like, all these things.
I mean, so many people don't, because what we're talking about is actually being present. But a lot of people think that being present just means you don't feel bad.
Yeah.
But you actually seeing yourself and actually being present with yourself and starting to truly understand yourself. And then when you uncover more of the layers of the onion, remaining in that place, because once you start to peel back more of the layers, then it's like, oh man, you know, you have some things that come up or reactions or associations that you notice. But then you can, you know, forgive yourself and stabilize yourself within that too.
Yeah.
And so I think the point you mentioned is really good, because this isn't like a network. Networking events, you go and you take. Everybody's looking to take something. What can I get? Like, we're an actual community. We have a similar resonance. And now, I mean, always really, but now I especially put emphasis on this. Like, your friends are the ones who live by and support you within the same principles that you have. And so now we actually have
principles. I mean, people don't even live, like, have something that guides their life, that they're saying, I'm going to live in this way, whether it's I'm going to do what's best for everybody, whether it's, okay, I mean, like in religion, they have like commandments and stuff, which is not actually the same, but
yeah,
you have something that guides your life. I guess I should say the starting point actually wouldn't be the same, but actually having something that guides your life and actually having people that resonantly can understand things on the same. I mean, the elites, they have Davos, right? They have the World Economic Forum. They have these different groups because they resonantly connect with each other. Whereas what we have here, we resonantly can connect with each other. We resonantly understand these various points. And so it's not a network where there's a bunch of random people that are coming together and then it's just, hey, what can I get from these other people? Yeah, it's, hey, how can we actually move the needle forward for everybody? Because on a baseline level, we're all resonating the same thing. And so, yeah, I think that's super impactful.
Yeah. And I think it's also a point to like, just to point out though, is that just because we're learning these tools and being able to use them and being in a group that is supportive of each other and in the growth, it doesn't mean life is always good. It doesn't mean bad things don't happen. And it doesn't mean that you don't get shaken for a bit, but it means now that we have tools to really help us through those points, really helping us come back to stability, really helping us make clear decisions. And, you know, because I think, honestly, there's been times I felt like things were worse just because you have to go through some things, right? You have to, you know, uncover some things in your life and you have to go through it and then you have to move forward. And so that's not to say that life is easy now, like everything's sunshine and roses and you know, those rose colored glasses and, you know, like life is real, it's, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And where we're at now, the world needs what we're doing. I mean, just on a basic level of community and people that actually are considering what's best for you, not trying to just manipulate you to do something they want you to do or to get you to forget about your feelings or your relationship or your money problems or the issues with your kids or at your job or whatever. Like, we're actually developing each other and allowing other people to truly feel supported so that they can through the things to get to the next level in life. Because like you mentioned, when you start seeing yourself and when you start making improvements, things seem worse sometimes, you know? And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm actually realizing who I am and what I have accepted and allowed this whole time.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the hardest pills to swallow. So yeah, I'm super, you know, for the community to be here to help us along that process, because until you're able to walk for yourself, then you need other people to support you. You know, it's interesting. I was watching this video with our kids the other day about horses, and we were watching a wild horse video, and it showed this mother horse giving birth to a baby. And within 1 hour, it said the baby was able to get up and start running around. You know, and for other, you know, lots of other animals, they can get up and move on their own very quickly compared to humans, you know, when it takes us like a year to be able to walk on our own. And so
not even well, mind you.
Right. And so we've developed such a complex level of like intricacy within our, you know, just the mind, consciousness system and all of that. But for us to walk ourselves out of that, it takes a lot. And so to have other people that will help you stay focused, or at least feel supported, at least feel like you can do it in the time in which you're making decisions based off of your feelings, is very important, you know, until you can see things more clearly. Having a group around you is of the utmost importance. And then now that we're able to see these things for ourselves, we have such a good time together because everybody's just having great conversation. We have such silly jokes and all this stuff that we crack. And I'm just
no, I love it. And, you know, honestly, it's been such an amazing group of people. And, you know, really over the last few years, I've been part of this, you know, part of the community before even really, you know, Techno Tutor was started. I was kind of in some of the groups, right? And and knowing Avery and stuff. So like I've been around for a long time, but for me to really actually dig deep was not that long ago. So it's really, for me, it was because there was so much self-judgment and self-worth issues and all that stuff going on. And not wanting to face it, because like we said, it's not easy. So, but yeah, it's really opened my eyes up, like what an amazing group of people this really is, and how true they really are. They're not there just for the good times, right? They're not there just for, hey, you make me feel better, so I'll hang around you, or what can I get from this person? So let me be around them, right? It's truly is an amazing group, and yeah.
No, I was just saying it's not easy. You know, it's like a lot of times it's like the pain of life has to get enough for us to move, you know, and so yeah, to have other people to help you face it and to help it not be such a hard pill to swallow. You know, like a lot of those TT support calls that we're on after the self-perfected hangouts, it's like those are really good at helping people that are looking like not clearly perceiving what they're going through, to kind of see it from a more realistic point of view, especially from somebody who's not as emotionally involved or at all within it. You know, like sometimes if you talk to a partner or a fan, something like that, they're emotionally involved in your situation, so their opinion is sometimes biased. But I mean, now, yeah, we have people that are actually here to help each other get through these things. And for me, that's a lot of the reason why we wanted to be involved initially, because I would try to start a group here, start a group up over here. We would do things for health and wellness, mindset, these different things. And we were big on community because ultimately, you know, her and I both individually didn't have the best support to help us feel like we're cherished, or that we were supported, or that we could do what we wanted to do, or that we could achieve the things that we wanted to achieve. And so, it helps when you have other people that are actually doing what's best for you, not just trying to do what's best for them and have you do that. So,
yeah. And, you know, I think sometimes too, like you and we both physically picked up and moved somewhere different in order to really get clear. And having, like, would you have ended up this group if you had stayed where you were? Maybe not. Like, would you have been able to connect with those people in the same way? Or right? And same with, I mean, even though I've been part of the group for a long time, I literally picked up and moved from Canada to Mexico. Well, there's a lot of people who may have opinions about that, but sometimes you need to change your environment to actually give yourself the room to have the clarity and to actually start making decisions that are independent from what you were always taught and always upholding. So, you know, sometimes it's a physical move.
100%.
Sometimes, you know, but sometimes you can just go, hey, it's in my community and here I am. But for, you know, like you and me, I think we actually made physical moves to really start shifting things in our lives. So, yeah.
Pretty big ones, pretty far away.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah.
And I know
this
we
is
could go
This is a
on.
good conversation. I appreciate
Oh my gosh, we could go on forever, Austin. And I want to have more conversations and go really in depth in things. But I know we both are like got meetings and appointments and stuff going on today too, and working with people. So I want to be mindful of that.
Yeah.
But go back and look at yourself as a 10-year-old. What kind of advice would you want to give them?
Man, that's interesting. I don't say that advice that I would give him would be that you're good enough. Yeah, you're good enough, man. I mean, if he would have felt good enough, he probably would have made some different decisions, and I might not be in this position where I'm at right now, of which I know is the position that I need to be in. And going through all that was totally worth it. However, if I could go back and tell him something so that he knew it along the way, it's that, yeah, you're good enough. You're totally good enough. And then now it's like I have people that are telling me, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for how you're, you know, whatever you went through to get you to the point of telling me what you're telling me in order to help me change my life. That's amazing. But I would definitely tell him that you're good enough, you know, because everybody everybody is organically good enough to do what they need to do to have impact on their situation. It's just we've been so impacted mentally to think we can't do it, and reinforced with that we're not good enough and we don't think that we're good enough. So a lot of times we just don't even try, or a lot of times we just give up really quickly. And so for me, I would just give up on, I'm not going to smoke anymore every day. You know, I would give up on, okay, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to stay consistent, or I'm going to do whatever. And it's like, nah, man, you've always done it. You've never really been able to do that. Like that inner dialogue, like I didn't have a lot of that when I was 10, as much as when you get older, you have more of that back chat. But to know that when I had that the most, I would be able to get to the place where I'm at now, so that I can actually see and realize and understand that. And I don't have that running rampant like I used to, like genuinely without suppressing myself or using any type of drug. That would have helped me a lot, because I just felt wrapped in my freaking head. And so, yeah, that's what
That's great. I think a lot of us can just take that to heart right now and say, okay, I am good enough, right? It's, you know, having that belief and that
and so
confidence
now
and knowing
we just have to
this.
get people to see that. Yeah, right. Because it's like, now we can get you to actually do it in the physical, to where you know it for real, and you don't have to just tell yourself. You know, you can tell yourself in the meantime, but then like we can actually get you to the point where you genuinely know it. You don't have to believe it. You know it. You're living it after at that point. But yeah, that's the main thing that we can help people look forward to.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna hold on to that one too, and I go, yeah, that one sits. That one's good. Yeah, that resides in here.
Thanks for having me on here, Catherine. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. My pleasure. And any last advice or things you want to share right now before I let you go?
We have a self-perfected hangout on Friday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Come on and hop on the hangout, because you don't know what you don't know. And there's a lot of people that know the things that you probably are looking for. And there's a lot of people that have definitely walked through the points that you might be walking through. So people that are watching this, even if you don't know how to get through what you're going through, if it's not me with the addiction, if it's not me with the being in my head a lot, if it's not me with rewiring my money program, if it's not, you know, Joe with being a gangster, if it's not Hugo with looking at points of, you know, being raised in Mexico, tons of people have a bunch of religion points, like people with relationships, all these different things. Like, you can find somebody that isn't just facing it, but you can find somebody that's actually walked through it. And so throughout the group, there's enough people in the group now to where we all have the results, so that anybody that's looking to solve something in their life, we can without a doubt know that we can help you walk that too.
Yeah, fantastic. And I always have the links in the description here. So if anybody does want to be joining us on the Friday for our hangouts, it's there. You can, connect with me. My email's there. There's ways to get in hold of us. Like, we're here to help you out. And if your life is already amazing, like, let's go. Let's make it even better. Right?
Oh yeah. For sure. Yeah, we have people who are millionaires and all that stuff, successful relationships joining the group, because even those who have a bunch of money, they're like, I need other people who are cool that I can hang around. Because a lot of people that have a bunch of money, unfortunately, we see that the things that they haven't resolved within themselves, now you just have a lot more money to distract you from it or to cover it up. And so let's help you, continue to live that great life, and then clear up any of the things you want to clear up, or things from your childhood you don't want to have continuing to impact you with trauma and all that stuff. We can help anybody and everybody just continue to have a really cool, fun life.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. let's go and have a really cool, fun life together and like just really build a huge community. That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much, Austin, for joining me here and doing this chat with Kat. I truly appreciate it. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you on Friday.
Cool. See you on Friday. Appreciate it.